On August the 9th, 2025, the racing world was left shaken when longtime Bowman Gray Stadium driver Robbie Brewer suffered a sudden medical emergency during a Sportsman race, leading to a crash that ended his life. What began as a typical Saturday night at the Madhouse, a place where Brewer had spent nearly 40 years behind the wheel, quickly turned into a tragedy that left fans, officials, and fellow drivers stunned. Brewer wasn't just another name on the roster. He was a fixture of the track, a racer who grew up at Bowman Gray, built his identity there, and became one of its most loyal competitors. As the news spread beyond the stadium and across the racing community, people were left searching for answers, but what exactly happened that day? Well, let's talk about it. This is the infamous death of Robbie Brewer. Robbie Brewer was more than a familiar face at Bowman Gray Stadium. He was part of its fabric. Born and raised in Winston-Salem, he grew up only minutes from the track, and like many local racers, Bowman Gray wasn't just a venue for him, it was home. Brewer began racing in the mid-1980s, entering the four-cylinder division as a young driver. He raced in a pieced-together pink car that he put together himself. In 1994, he made a major move, relocating to Alabama to be closer to his father, who had built a reputation of his own in dirt racing. Following in those footsteps, Robbie began competing at East Alabama Motor Speedway in Phoenix City in a car owned by his dad. The transition to asphalt to dirt didn't slow him down. He adjusted quickly and was named Rookie of the Year in his division. He eventually moved back to Winston-Salem in the early 2000s. Brewer earned a reputation as one of the Sportsman's division's most reliable veterans, collecting multiple wins and becoming a top contender throughout the 1990s and 2000s. Whilst he never chased the national NASCAR ladder, he became a hometown star in the way that only Bowman Gray could produce. Week after week, season after season, he put on shows for the same grandstands he once sat in as a teenager. Unlike many drivers who arrived each week with full crews, Robbie was essentially a one-man operation, building, tuning, and maintaining his own car from week to week. The talent was there, but the resources weren't. That changed when two men, Brad Robbins and Jeff Red York, noticed how hard he was fighting alone and stepped in to help. With a proper support system behind him, Robbie quickly found his stride, racking up multiple wins in the limited Sportsman series. Fans and fellow drivers respected him for the way he approached racing and his fierce loyalty to the small team that supported him. What followed was nearly a decade of consistent success, at a stadium where his racing life first began. Robbie became a fixture and a fan favourite in the Sportsman division, collecting numerous victories and ultimately securing a track championship in 2011. His journey, from a teenager with a patched-together pink race car to a respected champion, embodied exactly what Bowman Gray was known for. At Bowman Gray alone, he made 311 career starts across the Sportsman, Modified, and Stadium Stock divisions, collecting 11 Sportsman division victories along the way. Beyond the quarter mile, he also became a force in regional modified racing. Between 2018 and 19, he scored 12 wins in just 21 starts on the 602 modified tour. Entering the 2024 season, Robbie stood as one of Bowman Gray's most experienced competitors. However, few could have imagined that a driver so deeply woven into the history of the track would soon be at the centre of one of its most heartbreaking nights. On the evening of August the 9th, 2025, Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina hosted another packed night of short track racing. Known as the Madhouse on Main Street, the quarter-mile oval is famous for its tight turns. It also has a very loyal fan base that has followed the track for generations. Spectators filled the stands, eager to watch local and regional drivers compete in the Sportsman division and other classes. For 53-year-old Robbie Brewer, he approached that night with the focus and experience of a driver who knew every corner of the track. As the race began, Brewer's car moved through the pack with the skill that had defined his career. Everything was going as planned until the last 4 laps of the race, when, during one of the turns, his vehicle can be seen on camera smashing into the wall at the back of the frame. It then loses control, colliding with a few other cars before slowing down and ultimately hitting the wall as other cars manoeuvred their way around him. From first looks, it really doesn't look as bad as many of the crashes we see nowadays. However, it quickly became apparent something was seriously wrong. Track officials and emergency personnel responded immediately, reaching Brewer on the track and transporting him to a nearby hospital. Spectators were confused and scared for his safety, but they were left with one question: what happened? Reports indicate that Brewer suffered a sudden medical emergency, a heart attack whilst driving, which contributed to the crash. It is mainly believed that this happened before the first crash, which led him to smash into the wall. Despite the rapid response of track safety crews and medical staff, he was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. Although the crash into the wall was pretty brutal, it was most likely the heart attack that ended up taking his life. The sudden loss sent shockwaves through the stadium, the local racing community, and fans who had followed his career for nearly 40 years. The incident caused the immediate suspension of the Sportsman division race, and the track paused to acknowledge the severity of the situation. Fellow drivers, many of whom had raced alongside Brewer for years, expressed deep sorrow. For them, it was not only the loss of a competitor, but the loss of a mentor, a friend, and a defining figure of Bowman Gray racing. News of the crash spread quickly through local media, national racing outlets, and social channels. Fans shared stories of Brewer's determination and his years of commitment to the sport, whilst fellow drivers highlighted his work ethic and countless hours he had spent preparing and maintaining his car, often working alone to compete at the highest level. Brewer's funeral was held in Winston-Salem, attended by his family, friends, and members of the racing community. Colleagues and fellow drivers shared memories of his perseverance, his sportsmanship, and his mentorship to young racers. Robbins, who had assisted Brewer in the early 2000s, told reporters, "Robbie never wanted the spotlight. He just wanted to race, to win honestly, and to help anyone who needed it. That's the kind of person he was." Family members also spoke about Brewer's character beyond the track. He was remembered as a devoted son, a supportive friend, and a man who took pride in his work as a mechanic and racer alike. His dedication to the craft was mirrored by his loyalty to those close to him, a trait noted repeatedly by relatives who described him as dependable, caring, and generous. His sister remarked, "Robbie lived life on his terms, but he always made sure everyone around him felt cared for. That's the legacy he leaves behind." The racing community also organised memorial rides and events at Bowman Gray Stadium, celebrating his life and career. Flags were flown, and many of his fellow drivers took a moment before racing to honour his legacy. May Robbie Brewer rest in peace. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, so if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go that extra step to support the channel, maybe consider becoming a member. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.